Hey folks, Big Woodsman here. Today we're in the shop. It's going to be part one of a three-part series on modifications to your four-wheeler. So stay tuned, let's see what we get into. So here's our four-wheeler, and the first thing that we're going to be doing is attaching this rear backrest storage compartment to our four-wheeler. So I've got other videos out there on what I did to rebuild this four-wheeler, check them out. But for today, we're going to be installing this backrest. So a little bit of detail about this backrest. We picked it up at an auction. We paid very little for it. It's in really good shape. However, I'm not sure why they do this, but they put on these little nylon straps in order to attach it to your four-wheeler. And then they write right on it, not for passenger use. However, they create a passenger seat. And my guess is they say that because the nylon straps that they use to hold these things on are crap. They get sun faded, the UV rays will attach to them and basically destroy them, degrade them to the point where it's going to fall off. So today I'm going to show you a different method on how I attach this and make it solid and safe, that if you do have a passenger on the back, you're good. But the first thing we got to do is clean it up. So most of these storage units are meant to sit inside this rack that we have on the back, but you can see by ours, it's just a little too large, it doesn't fit. You can see the rack here is originally bent, so we're just going to go ahead, we're going to take this rack right off and mount this relatively permanently to this storage rack. So this rack bolts onto our permanent storage rack via bolts that are just underneath, and then the whole rack will lift up and off. So we're going to go ahead with our ratchet, and we're going to start ratcheting these and taking this rack off. So now that we have our bolts off, now we can go ahead and take our rack out. We'll probably never use that again, so we'll just throw that away. So now let's go ahead, set our new luggage compartment on the back of this, and let's see where we can get it sort of straight and then mark where we're going to actually bolt it down. So there we have it, nice and straight, even on both sides. We're going to measure it to confirm. So now that we've transferred our holes to the underside with our soapstone from this solid rack that's bolted to the machine to the underside of this, we can tip it up and see if the actual marks rang true. So I don't know if you can see this or not. We'll get a little closer. We can actually see here we've got our mark, and up here we have our mark. We've got that on both sides. So basically now we can go ahead and drill those 4 holes. So there, I've gone ahead and transferred the soapstone over to a Sharpie so we can see them better, understand where we need to drill our holes. So you can see here, this was the old web strap that used to hold this on. I don't know, they were really cheap. They get UV damage, they break very easily. So we're gonna go ahead and do something that's much more permanent and much more safe. So we have our luggage compartment drilled. It's sitting on top of our heavy rack. It's aligned with the holes in the rack, the perforations. So now what we want to do is we want to bolt it through. But we can't use something like this because it's just going to slide right through, and over time it's going to rip out the plastic. So what we need to do is create a much bigger bearing surface. So we're going to take these large washers and we're going to weld them to the bolt head. So this is where your fabrication skills, welding skills, everything's going to come into place, because we have to create large bearing surface bolts that will then go up through the rack and bolt down with these Teflon core locking nuts. Then everything's going to be nicely locked in place, and over time vibration's not going to wreck it. So here's our finished bolt. As you can see, we still have the exposed head of the bolt on it, so we can put a wrench on it, pliers, whichever we may need. If we're out in the field, we need to tighten. And we have our bolt welded to the washer. So now we have a large bearing surface that'll go up through the rack on the back of our machine and go up into the storage compartment, so the threads are all inside the storage compartment. We'll show you that in a minute. I have 3 more of these to do. So we have our luggage rack drilled, set in place. It's aligned with the holes underneath when we took our measurements. So now we're going to go ahead and we're going to put our first bolt up through the back. The other thing I forgot to mention was we've measured the length of our bolt, so we have minimal bolt sticking up into our luggage compartment so we can use the maximum amount of space. So now all we have to do is put a wrench on this, tighten it up. So let's put the second one in. So here we are at the other side. The only thing I may change, well, I probably will change for sure, is there's this little waterproof storage box that's inside the compartment. And I had to move it over slightly because of the bolt that's in this corner. So I may actually take this and take it right out and shift it right against the side so it sits right over here out of your way, just giving you a bit more storage. So I'll probably do that, but that's only going to be a couple small bolts. So we have 4 bolts in the back of this. That's way better than these nylon straps that were holding it originally. It's way stronger. It's modified to fit this machine now, as you can see. It shakes the whole machine. So very pleased with it. The locks are still in place on the front if we ever need to strap the lids down. So there you have it, solid install. I'm looking forward to having this storage rack on the back where I can put all my chainsaw supplies and everything when I'm going out to the bush. So there you have it, folks. There's step 1 of our 3-part series on modifications I'm going to be doing on this machine. We've mounted our storage compartment on the back of the machine. As you can see, since we picked it up at auction, it wasn't a perfect fit, but we've mounted it very securely and safely to the back of this machine. So now we can have a rider on there. I wouldn't want to go extremely long distance, but you could have a rider on there with much more safety. And it's got a great amount of storage compartments for stuff that I'm going to be taking into the bush, like chainsaw work, etc., etc. So fantastic modification to have that on there. The second part I'm going to be doing coming up is going to be a chainsaw holder, a mount for the back of this machine that you can put your chainsaw in, and that way you don't have to worry about carrying it in your luggage holder and doesn't fill up your front rack. So stay tuned for that one. That one's coming up. Remember, there's life out there in the woods. I'll see you out there in it. Little Easter egg for you. I thought I'd show this anyway. We mounted the little waterproof compartment that we talked about moving. And we just put it through with a single little screw bolt, I should say, on the outside. And then on the inside, we just mounted it with a wing nut. If we ever want to remove that in the field, it's just a simple undo of the wing nut and out she comes. And then you can put it wherever you need to.